Morning, beautiful. And I've just remembered I got a feeling that I have not turned on the Wi-Fi, so I'm actually going to go into the house and do that. Because I'm running a little bit late, you see, so sometimes I forget the important turning on the Wi-Fi. Yeah, we're not prepared today because I'm running late. It's in the lounge, love. All right, so there'll probably be a bump when we switch over to Wi-Fi. But maybe there won't because I was standing right next to the modem. Anyway, we're going outside again now. And let me show you the day. My goodness me. Sometimes I just have a moment. So let me show you the flowers. Tap the camera icon, Maddie. You know, there they are. They get pinker as they age. And they get chewed. Because they're yummy. All right, there's our bump. That's it. But, you know, they're still fabulous. And there's more over there. This is a smaller clump. They always get eaten a bit more. I think it's because they come out later. But there they are. See, they look like lace work. But they're still beautiful. What else have we got here? It's, you know, it's late summer. It's the beginning of autumn. We've got a New Zealand hebe. These things are really like weeds, but aren't they fabulous? And they're very tough. They don't mind how hot it is. They'll wilt if it's really droughted, but they just keep going. And there's the ginkgo tree. Good morning, good morning. I can see you coming on, but Facebook hasn't told me who you are yet. Sometimes it takes a while. What else have we got here? Grace, good morning. Here we have the magnolia tree, just covered in its green leaves. But, you know, there's something really beautiful just about leaves. I appreciate the fact that flowers are lovely, but foliage lasts a lot longer. So we're just having a bit of a ramble. And you can see down here, this is where all the flowers are really happening. We have so many nerines just coming out into flower. It's actually a bit interesting getting in here because there's so many of them. These are the white ones, which are fabulous. Elaine, good morning. And you've got to just imagine the scent because they smell glorious. And here are some pink ones that haven't yet been eaten into lace work. So, you know, it's really nice. It's very calm out here. You can probably hear that we've got cicadas. There's the fennel, which I have to cut down because it's running to seed. Imagine several 100,000 of those in the garden. It wouldn't be good. So no seeds. But we like the leaves. They taste like aniseed. And the lemon tree still has some lemons on it. They keep on the tree better than they keep in the fridge, so I tend to pick them when I want them. And little bits of purple campanula, which just grows really nicely under the tree. And what's missing? Purple and yellow and green. So here we go. Now, turning this around, yesterday I got asked a really good question. Oh, actually, I've got to show you this. See, we have unseasonal roses. Sometimes a rambler rose does a second flush. It's not like the spring one, but it's pretty just to have a sprinkling of them around the place. There it is. The camera's a little bit confused with the focus, but there you go. So we have roses, and they smell sweet because they're just species. Species roses almost always smell good. Hasn't been bred out of them. Right. So Charlotte asked a really good question yesterday. You might remember that yesterday, Tristan, good morning. Yesterday I told you the story of what happened in my meditation that morning, and something really powerful that happened in an event which I only relatively recently understood had kind of set me up for a lot of experiences in my life. And nobody did it to me. It was nobody's fault. It was just something that happened. And it branded me emotionally, to use Dr. Joe Dispenza's words, and that's the best way to explain it. You know, you put a brand on an animal, it stays there. It's permanent, right? Now, what's nice about this is that we can change these things, but I only really realised exactly what this was doing, or how it sort of shaped me and shaped my life and my perceptions and my beliefs and what can make it into my world and what can't. I only really realised that quite recently. So yesterday morning, beautiful, amazing experience, and you may, if you saw that live, you may remember that I said, gee, you know, I feel kind of different, so I don't know what's changed. I realised a little bit later that I simply couldn't feel fear. And I understand from a neuroscience point of view what that means. There are places you can go in meditation where the chemistry changes in your brain to the extent that the emotional brain gets put to sleep. It just stops, it gets switched off. I think it's because you have melatonin, right? It's a neurotransmitter. And if the right things happen, it changes into different forms of amazing chemicals. And one of those amazing chemicals is actually a benzodiazepine. You know, Xanax. I don't take Xanax, but it got made in my own brain and it just put my emotional brain to sleep. And given that I had been facing some really stressful stuff in the last day or so, that was really nice. It was, this is really good. I can't feel fear. It was really nice. So anyway, you know, and I mean, that didn't last forever, and it's appropriate because fear is useful. It stops you from dying from time to time, but when it's just running all the time, it's not very good for you. Anyway, so the question that Charlotte asked came out of that, and it was this idea that, okay, so if there are these defining experiences, and if you've come in, you know, been born, and like you from the moment you remember being aware, you are scared of, I don't know, dogs, or you just have an unreasoning fear. Like I'm using phobias as an example. Or maybe you're conditioned immediately. You grow up in a loving family and you feel abandoned or unloved or unworthy or whatever. You know, what about the idea that this comes from a past life or many past lives, you know, and the origins of these things, and can we change them? And that was the kind of question. And it is a kind of a nebulous question to get to grips with, and I had to think about it for a bit. And then I thought, well, really, this is actually about the nature of time, because we perceive time as having a past, a present, and a future. Right, I'm going to get a little bit quantum and a little bit woo-woo, but really it's not woo-woo. It's totally science. This is my lived experience and some of what I know about it. We experience time as linear, before, now, and after. But actually that's not true. And whether you are comfortable with the idea of past lives or not, and some people aren't, and that's fine, just imagine with me for a minute. Imagine that time is not a line. Or, to use a beautiful example from Cryon, which I find very, very helpful, imagine a circle, right? You know, perfect circle. And you look at it on a piece of paper on the wall, and it's a circle, and you can see that the edges of the circle are curved. Now, if you make that circle, for example, the size of the Earth, if you are, you know, and it's huge, right? And we all know that we look at the horizon of the sea, and unless you're on a ship and you're actually 360 degrees, you can't see the curve of the horizon. It looks flat. And when you're far enough, or when you're close, let me get this right, to a really big circle, if you're just looking at one part of that circle and it's huge, it looks straight to you. I hope this is making sense. Really, 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 really huge circle. Imagine a circle that goes around the whole universe, okay? It's massive. Morning, Linda! And you can only see a little bit of it. And it looks straight to you because it's so big, but you can only see a little bit. If you could stand back from far enough, that circle would get more and more curved and smaller and would ultimately end up like a dot. Okay, so we're playing with, it's difficult to explain this, but this is the way that Cryon explained it, and it was beautiful and stayed with me because it makes sense to me. So the more perspective you have on time, the more you see that it's all one. It's all that circle. Tanya, lovely to see you. It's all one. And what I have over many years now and in many different ways experienced is the truth of that time is all now. And if we think neurologically, remember, and I say this so much, you're probably going to be bored for the next 2 minutes, but deal with it, okay? Love you. Stay with me. The memory that you have when you fire that neural network, oh, that's great, thank you, I'm glad it makes sense, Tanya. Yay! When you fire up that neural network that is associated with that memory and those feelings and that chemistry pours in your body, when you do that, it is now. It's not in the past. from your body and your brain's point of view, you are experiencing that memory again. And that's the truth of it. And it also means that as well as remembering your past, you can remember your future. If you can recall and fire up a neural network that relates to a memory and have the chemistry pour, you can go back to that fantastic time you spent on the beach with your friends. Maybe you spent the day surfing, you had a lovely meal, you watched the sunset, and all of those memories come back and you're there, right? Well, if you've never experienced that and you want to experience that, you just did that a little bit while I was talking about it. All you need to do is keep practicing that memory, and it becomes a memory of the future. So from the point, and then what happens is if you have a memory of the future, your body is going to find its way to that future. No questions asked. It's the law. It's how it works. Because if you invest your energy into creating that, imagining it, feeling it, oh, the beach is so beautiful, I can smell the salt, I can hear the sound of the waves, I feel a bit tired because I spent my whole day on the surf, and I had this wonderful meal, and now I just want to lie on the beach, and it's warm, and you can create that. Totally create that. So the whole of time from a neurological perspective is actually now. And if you go into the unified field, my totally favourite place to be, there is no time. There is no time. There is just now and my awareness. And so, I talked yesterday about going, quote unquote, back to when I was 5 and changing a traumatic event. I didn't actually go back. I just went to, if time is like this infinite, I got to translate this. If you imagine a massive, like a gaming board, right? And time is just spread out over the gaming board. When you're in the field, or in your brain, really, you can go anywhere on that gaming board you want to. It's easier to go to the places you've already been. Those are memories of your quote-unquote past. But you can use the same mechanism in your brain and in your body to go places you quote-unquote haven't been in your future. It's the same game board. It's the same dimension, which is time, and we can go anywhere we choose. We're just very conditioned to believe that the past is real and the future isn't. It's all now. It is all now. So, having set that baseline, if you're then thinking, okay, I just seem to have always felt this way about life, or always had this thing be easy and always had that thing be really, really hard and impossible, I wonder if something happened to me in a past life. Or I can look back to an event in my past and say, well, this is the reason why, okay? And you can identify it and you can give it meaning, you can understand it, that's great. It doesn't help you change it, right? It's just, I understand why I'm completely chained up. It doesn't give you the key to the padlock. So the insight can be useful, and it frequently, sometimes people say, I need to understand this before I can let it go. But I remember you said yesterday, Linda, you get to a point where you're analysing a problem or a challenge or something you can't figure out within the confines of what you know about it. And there just comes to a point where you think, I'm getting nowhere, I'm going in circles. Whatever the answer is, it's out of the box. I've got to go somewhere else or do something else to allow that answer to come to me. So, that's why understanding all about it and analysing it isn't particularly helpful, because everything you know and understand and analyse and think about that problem, that challenge, that whatever it is, you already know. It's only what created it. It's only what's part of it. And you're looking for something else, right? So to go back to our analogy, you have to go to a different place on the gaming board. You have to realise that you have the tools in your brain and in your body to go places you haven't been before you've actually gone there in 3D. And so, if, for example, you have just always felt terribly unloved and abandoned your entire life, and you grew up with a loving, caring family, and somehow it just didn't get through to you, which actually, in a modified sense, different words, but whatever, it's kind of my experience. Nobody's fault. But you see, I got conditioned by an experience when I was 5, right? But maybe you were just born and it was always like that, and you always had this tendency to feel really low and really small and unloved or unworthy or whatever it is. And you can't see a reason why. And you think, well, isn't it a past life? Jocelyn, good morning. Quote unquote, it probably is. But then you're putting it out there. You're saying, oh, it's in that past life and I need to go to that past life and fix things. No, you don't. That state of being is now. There are neural nets in your brain. Maybe when you were growing as a little fetus in your mother's womb, your mother had something really powerful happen to her. And she experienced deep unworthiness. And just at a chemical level, your body was conditioned for that. Do you understand it can happen like this? And remember, it's not just your little growing body. You have a little growing body, but around that little growing body is the infinite consciousness of the source, and you have no filters. So all of the energy and resonance of your mother's consciousness is interfacing with yours. And so you can be conditioned from that way. You can be conditioned by the sort of consciousness of the wider community, or some trauma that's been kind of left its imprint on the planet, because, you know, it's vibration, right? Vibration leaves an imprint. There's many energetic influences, and you can come out and start growing up and think, I don't know, there's no event in my life to precipitate this. Why do I feel this way? And it kind of doesn't matter. What matters is that you have this neural network, you have this hardware, you have this body that might have been biologically conditioned before you were born to feel that way. And the only thing that matters is taking your power back and saying, okay, I don't care where it came from, I don't care how long ago it was, or how many quote-unquote past lifetimes I've had where this is repeated, because we know this whole story of the idea that we come back and we come back until we've learned the lesson. I'm a bit uncomfortable with that, but I don't want to get diverted. It's all now. It is all now. If you feel that way, there is hardware in your brain and conditioning on your cells that supports that experience, and you're just really used to doing it. So if you remember intellectually, because it starts with having the knowledge. Patricia, good morning, sweetie. If it starts with having the knowledge, and if you remember, this has to be, this is true, even though I don't feel it, even though it feels like my energy is scattered from, Egypt to Sirius to wherever, and there's all this trauma that's scattered around the universe. It's all now, which means you can change it in the now. You have to get really present now and decide how you want to feel and practice it. I know it's boring, I keep saying it. But the thing is, I've really found it works. And when you come up against immense internal resistance, because you will, if it's that deep, and I know what this feels like, okay? Believe me, I know. And we're all going to face that kind of resistance sooner or later. If we want to do or be or feel something great, you're going to meet yourself that says, nah, that's not true, and you'll never be like that, and you can't do that, and you aren't that, and, blah, 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 blah. It's going to happen. So when your resistance comes up, it's funny, I was talking with a friend about resistance yesterday, chatting with a friend on Facebook, and it's this thing that we can't actually force ourselves through. You can't say, well, I'm just not going to be like that anymore, even though, your whole body is tuning with fear. You can't just impose a mental idea on something that's really visceral. So for me, when I'm in that place, I have to kind of keep chipping away at it and picking away at it and doing that incremental change thing that I talked about a lot and will continue to talk about a lot. And some days I can't make the change. Some days I can just say, I remember that this is how it's possible for me to feel. And I'm going to just try to imagine a teeny tiny bit of it. Because remember, when you imagine that teeny tiny bit of it, you are refiring that new neural network that you want to feel, that you want to have be bigger. And you are sending even just a little bit of chemistry to your body that says, hey, wake up to this, instead of doing the old thing where you feel a certain way. So we've got to bring our power back into now. It does not matter how powerful the experience was, or when or where or what lifetime it happened, because it's actually now. If it was no longer now, it will not affect you. It is not in the past. If you're feeling it now, you're feeling it now. You are still playing that symphony that started 40 years ago in your body and your brain now. So now is the place where you got to be utterly in the present moment to change it. And if you go and look up Joe Dispenza's work, and maybe on YouTube, Google Joe Dispenza generous present moment, you'll probably find something to give you an idea of what I mean when I say really coming into now. It means becoming pure awareness. It means letting go of your body, of your identity. It means letting go of everything in your life. It means letting go of where you are, where you got to go, and where you've been. And it means letting go of time. And it's the most blissful place that I ever get to be. And it just gets better and better and better and better and better and better every single day. And in that place, I can create myself. Doesn't matter what I'm facing. When I'm there, it ceases to be a barrier. I may come out of that space and still have to really overcome myself, but while I'm there, I can do and be exactly who I choose to be now. I've learned. Nesreen, it's gorgeous to see you, honey. And I know I get to greet you and I get to say goodbye because it's time. So, and it's Friday again, and I have crossed my 22 mark. The connections just grow, and I'm so delighted by the light that pours out of these faces of people that are connecting with me. I know it's all perfect. And by the way, I haven't seen any of your comments, so Facebook isn't showing me today. And I come to realise that if the comments aren't showing, it's because I just need to stay with my train of thought. It's all perfect. So, very much love. It's Friday. There will be resonant replays over my weekend, which is maybe your Friday, Saturday. Or Saturday. Yeah, Friday, Saturday. And I will see you again with bells on next week. And who knows who and where and how we'll be and what we'll have created by then. Because everything is possible. Big love. See ya.